Hey, welcome everybody to the Coach Show, the most badass hour in the entertainment business. I see that Coach Jennings has joined us, so we're excited, man. How you doing?
Good. I'm doing good. We've battened down the hatches up here in Wisconsin, and we're settling in for a long winter's night or two. It sounds like.
Yeah, well, down here, and you know what? This was funny, guys. And you know what? It's our show, so I can do what I want, right? It is what it is. But there was a lady that posted on one of the Storm Center guys. He's predicting, and she said, "Is that male inches or regular inches?" Can you believe that? Oh,
it's an honest question. I mean,
yeah. I mean, Lord. Hey, we've really hit the gamut tonight, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm just going to go with the intro here. Welcome back to the podcast, partner. Today, we're excited to welcome a coach with deep ties to our area and one of the premier programs in Division III football. Seems like that every team in Wisconsin, coach, is like good.
Yeah, it's a special time to be a college athlete in Wisconsin, no matter what sport it is, but then also, especially in football, and then even more so, especially in WIAC. I don't know that there's ever been a stronger collection and distribution of talent than what we've seen over the course of the last couple of years here in this state, and then also in this league. It's absolutely second to none. I've coached at a couple different schools here in the state of Wisconsin, and had a ton of success. Blessed to have a ton of success, but I've never seen it like this, and it makes it equal parts extremely fun and really, really frustrating and humbling as well.
I do got to throw out that my one of my best friends, childhood friends, lives up in Waukesha, and his voice is kind of like your voice. It appears that you've lost the Southern Iowa accent.
Yeah, I think it's called a wandering dialect. I don't know that I've gone full on Brian Kelly, where I can just talk like like anybody. But yeah, it definitely it strays back and forth depending on who I'm talking to. There's no doubt about it.
I think it's awesome. But anyway, our guest today, Peter Jennings, the head coach of University of Wisconsin Oshkosh. Coach Jennings is entering his 5th season, leading the Titans with a 23-17 overall record while competing in an extremely competitive WIAC conference. Now, I do want to throw out, an amazing tidbit. I can't believe it's been 6.5 years since we've had you back on the podcast.
Yeah, it's that is kind of crazy. It was right around that COVID time, right? That we did this and got to do it. Yeah, it's kind of wild. I'm always up for it, guys. You need somebody to fill some time. I can talk till the cows come home. I can promise you that.
Yeah, but what made like your roots when you played quarterback at Fort Madison? What have you drawn from that experience? And sorry, guys, if I'm like man crushing him a little bit more because I really like Peter Jennings anyway. But so when you look at your Fort Madison foundation and what you've done, not only as an assistant coach with Wisconsin Whitewater, as an offensive coordinator, but now as a head coach, what have you utilized? That you learned back in your roots?
Yeah, well, like I mean, I don't know how in tune everybody is with just where we were at when I started playing high school ball at Fort Madison, but my junior and senior year were the first winning seasons we had in a number of years, right? And like I was blessed, lucky, right, as a young guy to stand on the sideline as a sophomore and as a freshman at times, to watch us like work really hard, but not really get to where we wanted to go with a couple really, really tough seasons. Coach Waljasper came back and really taught us a lot about football, but it was more about just how to operate as individuals. And I thought that was really cool. And I've really taken that. My best friends in the world played high school football with me, and that holds true to this day. I was texting with a couple of them today. One about the movie 12 Monkeys, which I don't know if anybody remembers the movie 12 Monkeys, but just an absolutely brutal movie. It was bad when it came out. It was bad when I rewatched it trying to run on the treadmill, thinking that maybe I'll get something out of it this second time. I didn't. But like those people are the guys that stood up in my wedding. And that really, I think, I've taken that to this program, and I've tried to take it all the way through my coaching journey. But just the brotherhood, the idea that we're in this for more than just wins and losses. We're in this for each other. We're going to battle every single day for each other. We're going for the name on the front of the jersey, the name on the back of the jersey, the pride that comes with it, the friendship that comes with it, the camaraderie that comes with it. And so if I took anything from Fort Madison, we had a couple junior and senior year, right? We were like right there, a couple 6-3 seasons. If the playoffs had been changed a little bit earlier, the structure, like we would have been in with probably a pretty good seed with the people we beat and played against, but just didn't quite get over the hump. But I just learned a lot about how to operate as a human, how to operate as a friend, how to operate as a teammate. And I've really tried to build that into the fabric of what we're doing here at UW Oshkosh in the sense that it's got to be more than just wins and losses. It can't only be about what the scoreboard says.
I do want to give accolades where accolades are due. I believe that your team made the Final Four.
For basketball, yeah, women's basketball, or yes, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, last night we had we actually hosted the sectional, which I guess I didn't even know that the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 had a name. I just thought it was the Sweet 16 and Elite 8. But it's actually a sectional tournament. So we had the national sectionals, or one of the national sectionals at Colf at UW Oshkosh. Hosted Friday night, hosted Saturday night, had a raucous crowd last night. We were able to knock off WashU on Friday, and then University of Chicago last night. And so, yeah, our ladies, God willing, fly out on Tuesday afternoon. We'll see if those flights actually go out. Out to Virginia to play Denison in what should be an awesome game. It's their second straight trip to the Final Four, and that's kind of what I alluded to, or what you led me to earlier in the conversation, right? Like the competition in Wisconsin has never been better. Our women's volleyball team here at UWO won the national title a few short weeks ago. They won 21 straight sets on their way to a national title, like absolutely crazy, right? And now our women's basketball team is in their second straight Final Four. It's a really cool time to be an athlete in Wisconsin.
All right, guys. I hated to pop your bubbles so much. I was kind of rattling.
I'll go ahead. So obviously I got to go to high school with you, and it makes sense with moms and pops in the profession. Did you always know that you wanted to be a coach? Because going back to the awesome days of the early 2000s, nothing against Coach Waljasper. He was a fantastic coach, but it felt like Peter Jennings was the guy that was putting things together, the off season, throwing the ball in the gym, doing all of that stuff. Like you were a coach. And so it's no surprise to guys that got to experience that. But was that always the plan?
Yeah, well, first off, Coach, I really appreciate that, Derek. That gives me goosebumps, man, to hear that. Because yeah, it's something that I've always wanted to do. And I've got a little too much of my mom, I guess, with me sometimes, in the sense that, like, the mindset that if somebody's got to do it, it might as well be me. And I don't know how many people can do it better than me, right? Whether that's right or wrong, right? I've failed multiple times, so people can do things better than me. But like, my mindset is always that, like, if somebody's got to do it, it might as well be me, and I'll make this thing better than anybody else can. And like I said, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, I always wanted to be a coach. At one point, I thought it was going to be at the high school level. I didn't know. I knew just enough about the college coaching world, about how difficult it is to break in and actually start making some real money and being successful, that really scared me. And I thought, I have two high school teacher or two high school, middle school teachers as parents. Like, that would be a great way to go, and stick at the high school ranks. And then something clicked, my second year in college, where I was just like, no, like, this is what I want to do. I'm willing to make the sacrifices. I'm willing to earn peanuts on the job, work crazy hours, and try to make it work. And luckily, I married a great lady, Kim, who did get a real job, and so she kind of offset some of the financial needs, right? And I was able to pursue my dream, and it's been an epic run so far, to say the least.
How hard are you working to get one of those jobs as 5-year jobs, $15 million a year, and then get canned?
We talk. You'd be surprised how often we talk about that type of discussion. I'm one idiot away from taking a chance on me from having freaking generational wealth.
dude, Florida, hire my ass. All right. It's coachingcultureandathletics@gmail.com. All right, Ben, you got the next question.
Yeah. So before we kind of transition into your playing career, just as a high school athlete, specifically playing quarterback or any position in general, talk us through what that transition from like high school gameplay installs, what your understanding of the offense is and defense is before you get to college, and how much it changes from high school to college.
I will tell you, we used to run around and play in some 7-on-7s and 5-on-5s when I got done playing. Basically bar league type stuff. Competitive, but it was what it was. I was never a better quarterback than after spending 4 or 5 years trying to diagram plays and watch film and understand what a defense actually could do. I could go entire days without throwing an incompletion, right? Like and I'm not saying that because I was great. I'm saying that because you have such a different understanding of the game after you've actually had to coach it, after you've actually had to teach it, compared to when you're just going through and saying, hey, this is my read, this is my accelerator, this is what the protection is, this is where I'm hot. All right, I got four things I got to worry about. Let's rock and roll. Now all of a sudden you're worried about, well, are we seeing sim pressure? Are we seeing safety roll? What's the Mike linebacker doing? And all that starts to become really clear once you start coaching, because you're spending your entire day doing it. As a player, if you had an hour a day with your high school coach, you were absolutely ahead of the game. If you had 2 hours a day with your college coach, you were ahead of the game, right? And so then when you step into step out of the of playing days and into the coaching world, like, it does really change your perspective. And also, like, situational football changes. It's kind of crazy the evolution that happens from being a really good football player to being a really good coach. But I also think that my father-in-law says it all the time. Some of the worst coaches were some of the most elite football players. And I think there's some truth to that, right? In the sense that they think that everybody can process as fast as they can. Everybody sees the game the same way they can. And they're not willing to try to, or not willing or able to try to change their dissemination of information techniques to try to reach every single one of those players that they might have. And again, like, we'll open up fall camp. Let's talk about spring ball. We'll, April or March 31st is our first spring ball practice. I'm gonna have 6 quarterbacks in that room, right? They all learn differently. They're all at different levels of their education when it comes to football. I've got a 4th-year junior. I've got a true freshman, right? There's what's 100 level teaching to 400 level teaching, right? And I've got to be able to do that in a 45-minute window before we go out to practice. And then I've got to plan practice in a manner that allows a 100 level thinker to compete with a 400 level thinker and then have success, right? And so you didn't think about that at all as a 17-year-old senior, right? I was just like, all right, if I beat Fairfield, how many girls are going to talk to me, right? Like that was about the extent of the decision making I had at that point, right?
I want to take the time to talk about our sponsor, Riverside Resale Shop, 820 Avenue G in Fort Madison. Be sure to check that out. Our one and sole sponsor to this point, but we know that other people are going to get in the the parade. But we're rocking it now. You brought up a great point when you were talking about sometimes the best football player isn't the best coach. I can attest that me being not as good a football player, in high school or whatever, I was a decent coach, right? I mean, that sort of stuff kind of hits at times as well.
Oh, 1000%. I think that's a really important takeaway, is that it's about how you see the game. It's how you can articulate the game. We in our coaching manual, one of the things that we talk about a lot is it's not what it's about what you know can articulate and your players can duplicate. That's all that matters, right? So like if you won the Heisman and can articulate in a way that your players can duplicate, fantastic. If you couldn't play dead in a Western in high school, but you can articulate in a way that your players can duplicate, then you're going to be a great coach. We have a wide variety of guys on our staff, right? Like Nate Wera, he won the National Player of the Year in 2012 for UW Oshkosh. He was the quarterback of the year. Helped us make one of our first deep runs to national semifinals. This son of a gun can play. And he can coach, right? Like it's phenomenal. Now he's this offseason, he took the head football coaching job at Oshkosh West, which we're sad to see him go, but really excited for him and his family, right? But then we've got guys on our staff that did not play in college, but they love the game. They can coach. They're students of the game. They can articulate in a way that our players can duplicate or replicate, and that's what we're trying to look for.
Well, you just hired a former NFL player on your staff. I saw that.
Yeah.
That's pretty doggone exciting, man. Anyway, Dede, it's all yours.
Yeah. So before we get out of the playing days of Peter Jennings, just kind of letting our viewers know a little more about you. So not only did you get to go on and play in college, which is, an awesome feat, you got to go on with some of your best buddies that you were talking about earlier. So Justin Minke, Brad Linares, etc. How special was that?
Yeah, that was really cool. I mean, when I was looking to transfer out of Bemidji State, there was a huge, I was lucky to have a couple different options leaving high school to go to play. When I decided to transfer, I had a couple different options to go and transfer to play. But one of the deciding factors was just going and playing with the guys that I loved playing the game with. And I got to do that, and we played 4 great years together. And I wouldn't change any of that for the world. Mike Brooks being down in the Jacksonville area was a big part of that as well. He was obviously a really influential part of my life as a middle schooler, and so those things were awesome. And it really was like a cherry on top. And I was lucky to be able to play football and basketball at Illinois College. Had a lot of success and had a ton of fun doing it. And I tell anybody in the world, Division III athletics is a great spot to be. And I think there's becoming more and more of an awareness of that amongst high school coaches, high school players of all sports. But I gotta give this shout out here. We were at a basketball tournament for Ben. My son is 13 years old now and loves basketball. Both my kids love basketball. And we're down in the Reedsburg, Wisconsin area, and there's and somehow my kids have become infatuated with scoring 1,000 points. They're like, Dad, how didn't you score 1,000 points? It's like, I don't know. Just stop bringing it up. We didn't play enough games. There's a 19 game limit. I don't know, right? Like, so that's what I have to live with. Well, they find this ball in a trophy case, and it's 1,770 points, and it's a Mara Wyman. Mara Wyman is a sophomore, the 8th player on our women's basketball team that's going to the Final Four. She scored 1,770 points, and she's a defensive specialist at Division III. If you don't think Division III is elite basketball, elite football, elite track, soccer, you name it, like you don't quite grasp how good these kids are. And Mara is probably going to go and have a phenomenal career. Right? I'm not downplaying how good she is. I'm saying she's phenomenal, and she's a rotational player for a phenomenal basketball team. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool what Division III offers.
Amen.
Now, your roommate messaged me today and said he's got a lot of stories about you, but I won't bring that up tonight.
That's probably not the worst thing to do.
I really like that point you just made. Whether you're an all-star in high school and become a rotational player or whatever it is, like being part of it is just as essential as being the guy. And the experience you get, regardless of if you're a rotational player, an every down player, the go-to guy, right? Your experience doesn't change in the culture that you're in, and that's huge.
1,000%. And I don't mean to cut you off, but like we talk to our guys all the time. It's got to be about something bigger than yourself. If you're here for touchdowns, that's a superficial ask. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for guys that want to have an experience and create a set of bonds and have an experience that you can't have in anything else that isn't sports. And that's something we ask our guys a lot. Like if it's all about statistics, that's a superficial need, and we don't have that here. If your hard work leads to touchdowns, leads to interceptions, leads to rushing yards, whatever that is, that's fantastic. But it's all about the journey to get there, not about the end game. And that comes back to just a little bit of what we learned in high school and how to treat people and how to try to do this thing together.
Yeah. And then
sorry,
following up, you just said journey. So like your career path took you through, Iowa Wesleyan and Carroll and Rhodes and Whitewater and now Oshkosh. Like what did each stop along the way teach you?
That's a phenomenal question, Coach. So every spot, I've been blessed that at every single stop I've had great takeaways in the sense that were positive and great takeaways of things that this is something you should never do. And some of my best mentors had nuances that I'm like, that's something when I'm the head coach, I can't be that. But my mentors also, I've had guys that I'm like, no matter what I am, I can't sacrifice this portion of it. Right. And I'll talk about some of the times at Iowa Wesleyan, right? Like there's a way we were forced to recruit, and I'm not trying to knock on Iowa Wesleyan, right? Like not that there's anybody they're not going to hold it against me. It doesn't exist. But the way we were forced to recruit for a variety of reasons was not a long-term benefit to the football program or to the university. So at some point, myself, somebody else, whatever, right? I was a young coach at that point, needed to be able to try to articulate that if we continually are forced to bring in people from distance, we're going to continually have retention issues. And that stuck with me, right? The other piece is just bringing people into a bad situation, right? At some point, you need to be able to not just sell the used car. You have to be able to say, this is honestly if you make the decision to come here, this is reality. And if you're good with that reality, then this is going to be a great fit. If you're not good with that reality, then we've got to move on, because in sales, no is the second best answer, right? When I got to Carroll, Coach Kriskowski did a phenomenal job of really reminding me the game had to be fun. I was young, I was volatile, I talk with my hands, I still talk with my hands, right? And he did a great job of reminding me, like, this can't be, you can't go home pissed off, right? Like when you leave, you've got two small kids, like you got to be excited to be at home, and not because you're leaving football, but because you had a great day. So if you're taking practice that seriously, that you're frustrated when you get home, you're doing it the wrong way. And that has stuck. He also was a super fast walker, which I at first thought was really annoying. But like now, if you walk next to me, like I got places to go. We ain't fiddle farting around. I'm going.
Dude, I have little legs. You got to go slower.
If you're up here right now, we'll get you a sled, pull you behind. When I went to Rhodes, it was eye-opening when it came to just what a high academic recruiting was. What a beautiful campus could do, because Rhodes was one of the beautiful, is year in, year out ranked one of the top 2 or 3 campuses in the entire country. And then just how to, and Coach Ryan, who I played for, who's a defense coordinator at Iowa College, but still very, very close with, he did a great job of teaching me, like, there has to be a balance between academics and football. Like, these guys are elite guys. These guys are playing football because they like it. Not necessarily, and some of them love it, but they like it. They want to get a great degree, right? When I got to Wisconsin Whitewater, one of the things that Coach Bullis really showed me was sometimes you just got to keep your head down and stay the course. And that was something that he did phenomenally well during COVID. And I'm one of these guys, I'm like thinking about all these outcomes and all these potential outcomes and how can we best manipulate the system. And he was stoic and he was salt of the earth guy. And at times was just like, hey, we're just going to put our head down. We're going to do what we're told, and we're going to do it the best damn way we can. And I thought that was phenomenal. He also taught me, in no uncertain terms, that if you set the bar here, every single kid wants to reach that bar. And so stop lowering your standards because you're afraid of losing kids. Set the bar here and get the kids to hit that standard. And then when they do, reset it even higher. And that was eye-opening. I remember getting there and some of the things we asked the kids to do, and it wasn't like cruel and unusual, right? But like it was truly Division I expectations of whether it was study table, training purposes, athletic training, whatever it was such at such a high level. And I've tried to, and I have done my best to take that same methodology here in the sense that this is the standard. If you can't meet the standard, you can't play football for us. And it doesn't mean you can't play football anywhere. It just means you can't play football at UW Oshkosh. And so, yeah, there's long story longer. There's been some phenomenal things I've learned each step of the way. And it's helped me become the coach I am. And hopefully I continue to grow.
If you were to give, advice to somebody that was just becoming, a college head football coach, now that you've done it a few years, think back to that first year, what would you have done differently, if anything?
So I think the semi-unique situation of taking over for somebody that really done a great job, right? Flipped the program. Before Coach Cerrone, my predecessor, took over at UWO, it wasn't a bad football program, but it was not a nationally known program, right? So when I first took over, I was very, very cautious of I wanted to do things differently than Coach C, but I didn't want to just wholesale change this thing, right? So I probably made a few too many concessions early on to try to appease the old guard while also trying to implement the new tactics, for lack of a better word or phrase. And so what I would tell a young coach, be very respectful of anybody you took over for, whether they were good or not. Doesn't matter if they went 0-10 or 12-0, you need to be super respectful of that previous coach, because no matter how hard you thought they were working hard, right? We all work hard. Nobody knows that. Nobody goes to work thinking, oh man, I'm just going to punch the clock and get out of here. Not in college football, right? And so be very respectful of the previous staff, but do it your way and do it unapologetically. And again, the kids that want to meet the standard will be there. And if they don't want to meet the standard, then they will, they'll show themselves out. But I probably was a little too, try to combine two different systems or cultures. I don't even know if it's culture, because I think we have a very similar mindset on culture, but just a daily operation. Let's just say that. And it probably held us back just a little bit and made my life harder than it would have been. Like I elongated the transition process to 18 months instead of just saying, hey, this is the way it's going to be. Would have been a hard first 90 days, and then we're moving on. But the number one thing is be respectful of the previous staff, because I think there are too many people that take over high school, junior high, college, doesn't matter, and they're disrespectful of the previous staff. And I think that is that's disingenuous. It's cutting somebody down to make yourself feel better or to justify your practices, and I think that's garbage.
It's good stuff.
I love that you said that. Go ahead, Derek.
Yeah. So you already kind of touched on this, Peter, but anybody that pays attention to football knows the name Whitewater. So while you were there, you were 39-4, played for a national championship. What is it that makes that place so consistently successful?
I think the consistency is what you touched on. Like, and this isn't parabolic or hyperbolic when I say this. So between Coach Breswitz, who preceded Coach Leipold, who's now at Kansas, right? And then, the head coaches there just have such a strong idea of what structure is and consistency, right? So I don't know if it was Brez, I don't know if it was Leipold, I don't know if it was Coach Bullis, right? And those were the three guys before Coach Rindle. And I worked with Coach Rindle, so I don't have I don't know how he is as a head coach. I can't speak to that, but he's a great coordinator and great person and good friend of mine. But between Leipold or Breswitz, Leipold, and Coach Bullis, they created a system that, again, this isn't parabolic or hyperbolic, whatever that phrase is, that if we were breaking down the meeting room, meaning like we had a team meeting room, if we were going to put the divider up, it had it in their system, in their handbook. Assistant A would open the doors. Assistant B would queue up the computer. Assistant C would do this. And so it didn't matter who was assistant A, B, or C. You just knew this was your role. So it was a plug and play system that created consistency, and it was hyper efficient. Now it helps that they have great facilities, and it helps that they have a great location, but it was the system that was in place that created consistency, and you knew what you're going to get every Monday, every Tuesday, and every on and on and on. And I think that that's something that made them really, really special. And it's something that I've tried to emulate here in the sense that we are going to be similar. And I don't want to be rigid. I'm not trying to be rigid, but if we're having a 4:00 meeting, this is who's setting up the computer. This is who's making sure that there's markers on the marker board. This is who's making sure there's who's doing attendance, right? And it didn't leave anything up for chance or anything up to be any discrepancy in the process. Now you have to have a very large staff to be able to do that. Let me be very clear.
I want to go
staff?
on.
Sorry.
A little bit further with that, because I don't want to discredit, you said it earlier, like Wisconsin college football right now is just unreal. What is it about the state? What is it about football in Wisconsin that is elite right now?
Well, we have great genetics for football. I mean, we are a big body state, right? We have easy access into the Chicagoland area, which is some of the best football in the country. I'd say Wisconsin on its own, and this is probably debatable, is a top 7 or 8 football state in the country. So that helps. Not having scholarship schools in the state helps, right? We have one Division I program. We have no NAIs. We have no Division II. We have no FCS that play football. That helps. We have elite coaches. This league right now is inundated, and not even the league, the entire the NAC, the CCIW, all the Midwest Conference, all the schools that have Wisconsin affiliates are really well coached. And I'm not saying that wasn't the case a couple years ago, but the way these guys, we always had really good X's and O's guys. What we have now is everybody's got elite recruiters, and it's not like every staff has 1 or maybe 2 elite recruiters. Every staff has a staff full of elite recruiters. And so we're not just picking apart the state. We're not just picking apart Illinois. We're, Platteville. We try to go into Iowa. Platteville goes into Iowa very well. But then there's also a lot of national recruiting that's taking place. And so when you couple great X's and O's guys, elite recruiters, and then especially in the state system where like you're not going for us, you can't go to Illinois State not on scholarship cheaper than you can come to UW Oshkosh. You can't go to Northern Illinois as a walk-on cheaper than Oshkosh. Now you might want to go and say I played FCS or played Division I, whatever it may be, but it's not going to be a cheaper deal because of the in-state tuition that we're able to offer. And so I think that helps a lot as well when it comes to the level of all athletics. I mean, like if you don't want to pay $60,000, I got $8,000 tuition bill that you can come pay. You know what I mean? Like that's a crazy that when it's not apples to apples, it's apples to oranges, and that helps us get some really, really high end players.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah. Well, as an offensive guy, and your background being primarily offense, what core principles define your offense?
Yeah, so we want to have the ability to we want to have at least the perception that our quarterback is a run threat. We want to add a hat back in the run game, utilizing the quarterback as a runner. Now, if he isn't a run threat, we're going to at least give the illusion that he is, right? We're going to set him up so he can have success and make defensive coordinators at least second guess whether he's going to be he could be a ball carrier. We are in the pass game. We try to be really, really create black and white decisions for the quarterback so that they can make quick decisions. We have a lot of alerts. We have a lot of safety keys where we're trying to get the ball out early. We're going to isolate and try to create as many one-on-ones as possible. And in the run game, we do some gap stuff, but like I am a inside outside zone guy and have been my entire career. We tried to dabble in counter this year, and it was pretty good actually for us for the first time. But we are going to be zone-ish in the run game. Now, one thing that I feel very strongly about, and this study's a little bit dated at this point, but it was something like a couple years ago, or something like 70% of all scoring drives in the NFL had an explosive play. And so had an explosive play or lasted less than six plays. And so for me, we are constantly trying to find a mismatch that we can create an explosive, that we can keep a drive to 6 plays or less. And so there are a number of teams, River Falls, right, who won the national title this year. They ran 85 plays a game or whatever, right, and scored a bunch of points. They did it really well. If you watch a lot of our offense, we are going to try to put a premium on explosive plays because we believe that's how you're going to score the most points.
Now, kind of talking about like Cal and Jocelyn, they're up in Sioux City tonight in that blizzard, which is crazy. But a big question is, what kind of a player, what are you looking at as far as when you're going out to recruit a player?
Yeah, so for us, we have a standard, and we say it all the time. The standard is the standard, and so the first thing we're looking for, obviously, is a guy that can play ball. We turn on the film, we get a good recommendation, whatever it is, this guy pops on film. We look at him. He's got to be what we evaluate as a scholarship level player. He's got to be getting money from Grandview, from Winona State. He's got to be getting a walk-on opportunity from Illinois State for us to really start to move on him early, right? Now, there will be some guys that maybe don't get quite that type of recognition or that type of offer that we'll start to work on a little bit later. But early, we're looking for guys that are elite ball players, that are that middle, just not maybe quite good enough to get a really life-changing scholarship, but would love to come and pay the $8,000 or whatever for tuition here, right? Once we get that, then we immediately go to the personal recs. We're looking for guidance counselors, coaches, community members to sign off on this kid as a great person. So it's got to be an elite athlete, got to be a great person, and then we'll start looking into, all right, can this kid get it done in the classroom? Because I'm not trying to bring in anybody that can't finish their degree at UW Oshkosh. I don't care how good of a person you are. I don't care how many good recommendations you have. I don't care how many touchdowns you score. If you can't get the degree from UW Oshkosh, then we can't. That's a non-taker. So, but if you meet all three of those expectations or those standards, now we start asking real questions. Do you love the game of football? If you don't love the game of football, you can't play for us. We operate like a Division I program, right? Like we just don't pay you. It's the same hours, it's the same expectations, it's similar stress, right? We're just not giving you a full ride scholarship and or $5 million in NIL if you're an elite quarterback, I guess. But it's the same expectation. So you got to love the game. And if you check all those boxes, then we say you're an OKG, which stands for our kind of guy, and we want you here. And so that's how we evaluate. That's the step-by-step process. Are you an athletic fit? Are you a personal fit? Can you get it done academically? And do you love this game? Then let's freaking rock and roll.
The most exciting thing there, Dede, is a guy like Teague Smith that checked all those boxes.
Damn straight. Hell yeah, he does. Yeah. That kid has overcome so much adversity these last few years, and he just keeps coming back for more, and he works his absolute tail off. He's a phenomenal teammate. He's going to have a great career here. I cannot wait to see the success that all of his sacrifice is going to lead to.
God, yeah, absolutely, man. That fires me up right there. Love that.
We love him, man. We love him. It's a natural fit.
Awesome. He does make mention that if he hits the quarterback on accident during offensive indy, that he gets in trouble.
Yeah, there's some issues with that. Yeah, I mean that's part of the. let me be clear, right? Like I'm a quarterback, former quarterback, right? And I didn't want anybody around me, right? Like ever. In a game, not in a game, just stay the fuck away. Stay away.
It's okay. It's okay. It's after 8.
Football talk, baby.
Yeah. And then I'm also the head coach whose job is dependent on keeping our quarterbacks healthy. So like stay away.
Absolutely.
And he always plays with his freaking ears, pinned back.
Oh God, he's going.
Anyway. All right, Didi.
Yeah, I want to switch over here a little bit because obviously you were an offensive coordinator at one point, and so you kind of had your non-negotiables in the offense. Then you transitioned into a head football coach. What are the non-negotiables in your program now?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So like when you're a coordinator, I was never statistic based, but I always felt like I needed to be able to like not flex, but like show what we could do, right? Like this is who we are. We're gonna whether we're gonna run the ball down your throat or we're gonna throw it all over the yard, like we're gonna have an identity, and it was gonna be like we're gonna make sure we instilled that, right? As a head coach, I don't care how we win, just win the damn game. You know what I mean? Like it's like I talked to our defensive coordinator, Coach Stenny, like, Stan, what do you think you need to do on defense to win? And he might be like, well, we're going to give up a lot of underneaths. You're not going to be real happy about it. We feel like we can button down in the red zone. Don't think they have a great field goal kicker. Feel pretty good about just playing that slow bleed this week. And I'm like, hey, do it, right? When I was an offensive coordinator, I was like, stop them right now. Give me the ball back. I want the ball. I want to go score more points. And it's the same thing offensively, right? Like there are games where we like I'd slow it down if I was told by the head coach, but we were going to do our thing. And now we truly do what we have to do, or I expect us to do exactly what we have to do to win. Yes, I am. Yes, I'm still. But I expect us to do what we need to do to win the game. And so that's kind of what I guess if there's a non-negotiable, I mean, if we're talking about, efficiently stop the run. Like that's the thing that we talk about, right? Like at one point it was hold an opponent under 100 yards. Well, if an opponent runs 40 times for 100 yards or 102 yards, we efficiently stopped the run. That should be a win for us, right? Like they're averaging a little over 2.5 yards a carry or whatever that number comes out to, right? Like we should be okay. But if we gave up 96 yards on 6 carries, then that's a freaking issue, right? Like that's a big time issue. So we talk about, efficiently stopping the run. We talk about efficiently running the football in the same sentence that the reverse is true, that if we get 150 yards on 15 carries, I feel pretty good about it, even though we didn't break the 200-yard expectation or goal that we may have had in the offseason, right? We want to excel in ball security and creating ball insecurity. That's really important. But at the end of the day, it's do what's necessary to win the football game. And I think that we sometimes get caught up in all these different metrics that might not be applicable game in, game out, because you don't know what the weather is. Like, shoot, if we're playing in a football game right now, like all those metrics go out the window. Hold on to the football. Keep, like we're going to become a ball control offense. We're going to play very static defensively.
Are you going to run flex bone?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I'm just kidding.
We're going to run inside zone and outside zone and pray is what we're going to do. But like, and I think that's really important, that your day, like you can have your philosophy that you're going to treat people with humility. You're going to treat people the right way, that you're going to have really high expectations, that you're going to be fair and consistent, and all those things don't change, but your game plan has to be fluid. And if it's not, then you risk running up against a situation that you weren't prepared for and being too rigid.
Ben,
I mean, you've kind of touched on a little bit of everything. First question I have is, which assistant, is it A, B, or C, make sure that your locker has Mike and Ike's in them before every game? Because
actually, that's my lead assistant, my number one, the person who's more critical of me than anyone else, and it's my wife, who makes sure that the Mike and Ike show up. I will tell you that. But you don't want to be around. We win or lose, Kim is letting me have it. Like, just letting me have it. Like, why'd you run this? Why did you do this? What were you thinking on this call? Like, what? And it's like, and it's kind of funny, but I've had like younger assistants who don't quite know Kim and I's relationship. Kim's my wife, for those that don't know, but that will be like, hey, like, he's good. You don't have to go at him like that. And she's like, I do. And I was like, it's okay. We're like, you don't need to step in between this. This is all in good nature here.
I'm just curious, you've talked a little about your recruiting and all that kind of stuff. Like, what's the outlook going into spring ball? And then with the additions that you're going to have going into next year, what is what do you feel like your outlook is for next year?
Well, I'll tell you, Coach, it's the non-conference season that we play, coupled with the in-conference schedule. Like, it's the same. I'll tell you, it's the same thing that I felt this past year. We could go 10-0 and we could go 0-10. And this past year, we beat the number 15 ranked team in the country out in Portland, Oregon, on the road. We come home and play truly 2.5, 3 quarters of really good football against the reigning national champions. We beat a fully funded Division II team in week 3, get our bye week. We go beat the eventual national champions in a game that we really pretty well handled our stuff for the most of the game, and end up winning. And you sit there through 5 weeks and you're feeling like, shoot, we're pretty good. We got a shot. And it just, every week's a dogfight. And the season ended the way it did, which was kudos to the teams we played, and tip of the cap to our young men for continually fighting. But we have a similar setup this year. We play Linfield again; they'll be top 15. We play Alma this year; it's going to be top 15. We play Co, who's going to be top 20, top 15, right? And then we have the gauntlet of the WIAC. I feel very confident that we are a damn good football team. I would argue, no matter what our record ends up being, we are a top 15 to 20 team in Division III. But because of who we play week in, week out, and how the injury bug ends up playing, or how the ball bounces, we can prep as well as we want. You have no idea what's going to happen once the games take place. But with all that being said, our guys have had a phenomenal offseason. Phenomenal. I'm so proud of them. We hired a new strength conditioning coordinator and staff this past September. And Coach Mandy has been absolutely nails with our guys. They love our workouts. They've just been absolutely busting their ass. We have one more week of it. We're off tomorrow. It's the first canceled lifting session that I've had as a head coach, because we had so much snow. So we're pushing Monday's workout to Wednesday, but we have 4 more days this week of lifting than there are on spring break, and then we come back for spring ball. I think we did a great job in the transfer portal of attacking some weaknesses and creating a little bit more depth in some exciting areas. And then at the end of the day, I think we've recruited at a really high level. We retain at a very high level. And so if you're recruiting well, developing well, and retaining well, good things should happen. All that being said, there's 5 other ranked teams in our league.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Meat grinder, man.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of our schedule, Didi. I mean,
No.
It's okay.
I mean, we've got a tough high school schedule, but man, like, just looking at Peter's schedule, I know I look at it at the beginning every year, and it's like, holy shit, man, he's going out and attacking the best schools that he can. I just tip my cap to you for that.
Jocelyn is going to ask a question here. What type of team bonding / leadership building does your program implement?
It's a great question.
Yeah, that's a great question, Jocelyn. So we try to create as many touch points as possible between player to player, coach to player, coach to coach, staff member, because we have a relatively large student manager staff. We try to create as many different touch points as we possibly can. So we do team bonding events, whether it's going to, like, we had most of the team at the Sweet 16 and then Elite 8 Friday, Saturday. They got together before the game, went to the game. We assign different leadership groups throughout the off season, and they compete for different points, whether it's through workouts or attending different events or just community service that they need to do together. We have a thing we call ELE. And if you are a fan of Will Ferrell or Semi-Pro, there's a bit in that movie where he says, "Everybody love everybody." And so we have our ELE groups. And if you're not, 17, don't watch Semi-Pro because it's way more vulgar than I remember it being.
Very vulgar.
But it is a fantastic movie. That being said, but the ELE groups we break people up. It's cross positionally, and we create some really tough questions where that they can put up on the projector screen, and then everybody has to break up, and there's a lead coach with each one, and they go and talk. Like, what's your biggest fear? What's your favorite color? What's your mom do? What's your grandma do? Who's your biggest fan? Like these types of things that some of them can make people feel very vulnerable. But when you know somebody at a very personal level, you're prepared. You're going to be prepared to go to battle with them on a much more natural level or organic level than if it's just superficial and it's I know his name's Derek and he seems all right, but I don't know what makes him tick. So we work really hard to try to create connection and bond. I don't know where I got this from. I'm sure shit didn't make it up, but so it is somebody else's thought, but I buy into it wholeheartedly. We believe that the only way you can build culture is to have connection, and the only way you can have connection is to have trust. And so we try to create a ton of opportunities for our guys to create trust with each other so they can create connections so that we can have a strong culture.
It's awesome.
That's awesome.
I'll go ahead and go. It wouldn't be a podcast if I didn't ask about the weight room. Obviously, I get to talk to Teague a lot, and I touch base with him quite often, and he echoed exactly what you just said. Everybody is loving the new guy. How important is the weight room? I think that down here, there's still a lot of people that are like, is it important? We're trying to get that going, but as a college coach, how important is it?
Well, I will tell you, Derek, what I see from you, what you do in the weight room, like the Fort Madison and the Bloodhounds wouldn't be anywhere without how hard you're working for that program and for that room. And that's phenomenal. I'd be lying if I told you I knew exactly what all the Iowa high school rules and regulations are at this point, right? Like I'm just so far removed from understanding that. But at our level, the weight room gets more hours with our guys than I would ever get. So the culture has to be set in the weight room. Mm-hmm. And that's really important to understand in the sense that like our strength and conditioning coordinator and her team, they recognize that the way they treat our athletes can't be the way they want to treat my athletes. It's got to be the way that I would treat the athletes or our staff would treat the athletes. We have to have full alignment, because if they are spending 2/3 of their time of the year operating in a room that has a different set of expectations, a different set of values, a different set of a different culture, then when they come to the football field, right? When they come to fall camp, they're not going to be operating under the guys that we're looking for, under the standards that we're looking for. So it's unbelievably important for a weight room to be aligned, or the strength conditioning staff to be aligned with each and every individual coach's expectations and culture. And that's a really hard thing to do for a strength and conditioning coach, especially at the high school level or small school college football or small college anything, because there's only usually 2-3 coaches, right? And you have 18 to 25 sports. So you're having to understand multiple different cultures, multiple different expectations. It's not like Division I where every sport basically has their own strength conditioning coordinator, right? So I think it's extremely important because our culture is set in the offseason, and I have nothing to do with that outside of 5 weeks or 4 weeks during spring ball. And that's a crazy statement. That's a lot of trust that I have to put into somebody else to handle their business in a way that I approve of, right? Or that we have collaboratively approved of, because that's really important too. As a head coach, I can't just be like, hey, this is how I want it. I've got to hear, this is what I'm looking for, or I've got to ask, this is what I'm looking for. How can you try to accommodate this? And would you like to see anything else, right? And that's the collaboration that you have to have in the weight room. But God, the weight room is so important. High school, college, like that's where the culture's set. It's not set when you show up in August, right? Like it's set over the summer, it's set in the spring, it's set in the winter. And that's that when people truly understand that, that's where you become really aligned. And when people understand that and your strength conditioning staff's aligned with your coaching staff, that's where magic can happen.
And I just want to piggyback off that because I think you said a couple things that were super important there. One, I was going to ask the question, so are you aligning to the strength coaches, culture and all that kind of stuff, or are they aligning to you? Or is it that cohesive, like you're going to sit down and you're going to figure out what each other need to be successful in the field? And you kind of touched on it with, like you sit down and you're like, here's my culture. And then they kind of tell you what their culture is and you find a way to marry them together. But when it comes to the coaches and meeting with those strength conditioning people, like, is it just on the strength conditioning coach to go out there and say, hey, this is what I want to do in the weight room, and then the coach to just kind of be like, sure or no? Like, how do you get all those people to, and, I don't expect you to know it, but like, how did that process happen when you and this new strength conditioning person came together? Like, what was that conversation like in making sure that all your stuff married together to get the best in the off season and the best during your season?
Yeah, so I think you have to check your ego at the door when you go into a conversation like that, because there are, if there is any one way to train, right? Like everybody would train it. Train that way. No different than if there was one defense that was better than all defenses, everybody would run that, right? So you have to check your ego at the door and be prepared to be collaborative. And if you have two people or two groups that are willing to do that, I think you can really do some special things. I think if one group is demanding and not listening, I think it's like any relationship. Then it just becomes one-sided and it can become very toxic or volatile very, very quickly. I wouldn't say that Coach Mandy does everything that I want her to do precisely, but she does everything that she wants, that she thinks is best, if that makes sense, while trying to incorporate what our expectations are. And that's when there was only a couple meetings that we had early when I was like, this girl's special. Like this is something that could really, really, we could really do big things with. And it's because she was willing to listen, and she did think outside the box, and she was flexible, but then she also did want to do certain things a certain way. And I was like, hey, you're the professional. You're the one that like, we hired you to do a job. You go do it. Yeah, fine. I would have said, let's do this number of sets instead of this number of sets. But that's that, right? I haven't been in the weight room in 7 years, right? So like, you go do you. So yeah, I think it definitely has to be collaborative. I think people have to go in with an open mind. They have to check their ego at the door. And then they also have to understand the constraints that each group has, right? Like sometimes you just don't have enough racks to do something that would be ideal, but we don't have enough racks to do this, and this. So let's make accommodations. And this is almost as good, but it's going to be more time effective and it's going to be better for the student athletes. Let's make this thing happen.
Dee, can you give a little bit of insight as to our guests the rest of the week, because we're going to be busy before we do shout outs?
Yeah, I mean, if everything comes through, we're going to have Tulsa's strength and conditioning coach Joey G on, and then we'll also have Wisconsin strength and conditioning coach Collins on.
It's pretty awesome. Now, Coach Jennings, give shout outs, man. And I got to have you back probably within a month, because we can't go 5.5 years away from one another.
I agree. I'm in, man. Like, you just hit me up. I love doing this stuff. I love talking. I love trying to give back. And obviously, I bleed Southeast Iowa, and I bleed the Bloodhounds, right? So like, I'd love to be back. Awesome. Shout outs. I got to shout out my wife, Kim. Got to shout out my daughter Mara. Got to shout out my son Ben. They are my biggest fans. They are, and I am their biggest fans. They are stick with me through thick and thin. Got to shout out mom and dad. Got to shout out my in-laws. Got to shout out my brothers. Like I gotta say, I stole this. I think it's the Jim Harbaugh thing, but we talk about it in our family all the time. Who's got it better? And there ain't anybody that's got it better than Jennings family, and I honestly believe that. But it's because of my experience that I had at Fort Madison High School. It's because of my experience I had at Bemidji, at Illinois College. Great coaches, great mentors, great friends. I'm a very lucky man.
Very good. I wanted to let everybody know that tonight's broadcast brought to you by Riverside Resale Shop, 820 Avenue G in Fort Madison. Be sure to tell them Dog Pound Radio sent you if you want to be a guest. You want to become a sponsor, because we are looking for other sponsors. Join the train, ladies and gentlemen, because we're about to take off.